Boston shares many cultural roots with Greater New England, including a dialect of the non-rhotic Eastern New England accent known as the Boston accent and a regional cuisine with a large emphasis on seafood, salt, and dairy products. Boston also has its own collection of neologisms known as Boston slang and sardonic humor. In the early 1800s, William Tudor wrote that Boston was, perhaps the most perfect and certainly the best regulated democracy that ever existed. There is something so impossible in the immortal fame of Athens, that the very name makes everything modern shrink from comparison. But since the days of that glorious city I know of none that has approached so near in some points, distant as it may still be from that illustrious model. From this, Boston has been called the Athens of America, also a nickname of Philadelphia, for its literary culture, earning a reputation as the intellectual capital of the United States. In the 19th century, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Margaret Fuller, James Russell Lowell, and Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote in Boston. Some consider the Old Corner bookstore to be the cradle of American literature, the place where these writers met and where the Atlantic Monthly was first published. In 1852, the Boston Public Library was founded as the first free library in the United States. Boston's literary culture continues today thanks to the city's many universities and the Boston Book Festival. Music is afforded a high degree of civic support in Boston. The Boston Symphony Orchestra is one of the Big Five, a group of the greatest American orchestras, and the classical music magazine Gramophone called it one of the world's best orchestras. Symphony Hall, west of Back Bay, is home to the Boston Symphony Orchestra and the related Boston Youth Symphony Orchestra, which is the largest youth orchestra in the nation, and to the Boston Pops Orchestra. The British newspaper The Guardian called Boston Symphony Hall one of the top venues for classical music in the world, adding, "Symphony Hall in Boston was where science became an essential part of concert hall design." Other concerts are held at the New England Conservatory's Jordan Hall. The Boston Ballet performs at the Boston Opera House. Other performing arts organizations in the city include the Boston Lyric Opera Company, Opera Boston, Boston Baroque, the first permanent Baroque orchestra in the U.S., and the Handel and Haydn Society, one of the oldest choral companies in the United States. The city is a center for contemporary classical music with a number of performing groups, several of which are associated with the city's conservatories and universities. These include the Boston Modern Orchestra Project and Boston Musica Viva. Several theaters are in or near the theater district south of Boston Common, including the Cutler Majestic Theater, City Performing Arts Center, the Colonial Theater, and the Orpheum Theater. There are several major annual events, such as First Night, which occurs on New Year's Eve, the Boston Early Music Festival, the annual Boston Arts Festival at Christopher Columbus Waterfront Park, the annual Boston Gay Pride Parade and Festival held in June, and Italian summer feasts in the North End honoring Catholic saints. The city is the site of several events during the 4th of July period. They include the week-long Harborfest festivities and a Boston Pops concert accompanied by fireworks on the banks of the Charles River. Several historic sites relating to the American Revolution period are preserved as part of the Boston National Historical Park because of the city's prominent role. Many are found along the Freedom Trail, which is marked by a red line of bricks embedded in the ground. The city is also home to several art museums and galleries, including the Museum of Fine Arts and the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. The Institute of Contemporary Art is housed in a contemporary building designed by Dilla Scofidio. Plus Renfro in the Seaport District. Boston's South End Art and Design District. SoWa and Newbury Street are both art gallery destinations. Columbia Point is the location of the University of Massachusetts Boston. The Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the United States Senate. The John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum. And the Massachusetts Archives and Commonwealth Museum. The Boston Athenaeum. One of the oldest independent libraries in the United States. Boston Children's Museum. Bull and Finch Pub, whose building is known from the television show Cheers. Museum of Science. And the New England Aquarium are within the city. Boston has been a noted religious center from its earliest days. The Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston serves nearly 300 parishes and is based in the Cathedral of the Holy Cross, 1875, in the South End, while the Episcopal Diocese of Massachusetts serves just under 200 congregations, with the Cathedral Church of St. Paul, 1819, as its episcopal seat. Unitarian Universalism has its headquarters in the Fort Point neighborhood. The Christian Scientists are headquartered in Back Bay at the Mother Church. 1894. The oldest church in Boston is First Church in Boston. Founded in 1630. King's Chapel was the city's first Anglican church. Founded in 1686 and converted to Unitarianism in 1785. Other churches include Christ Church, better known as Old North Church, 1723, the oldest church building in the city. Trinity Church, 1733. Park Street Church, 1809. Old South Church, 1874. Jubilee Christian Church, and Basilica and Shrine of Our Lady of Perpetual Help on Mission Hill, 1878.